Well, welcome everyone. If I may, invite people to come down and have a seat, and we'll begin. It's good to see everybody tonight. I've been looking forward to this. And of course, we are going to be welcoming some people from National Moms for Liberty, and I'm really excited about tonight. Let's begin tonight with a word of prayer, and then we'll stand and salute the flag and have a good night. So let's bow our heads. Father, thank you so much for the night. We praise you and lift your name up, and we ask you to win the war. There's a battle going on. We pray that you would help truth, light, and godliness penetrate our world. We pray in support of your families. We ask your blessing for parents. We pray for our children. And we pray that you would rescue them from the forces that would have them, that would do harm to them. We know that families are your institution. And so, Jesus, we ask you to give increase for tonight and pray your blessing on us as we gather. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let's stand together, okay? Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So just wanted to say as a matter of welcome, this is welcoming you to Journey Roseburg. A lot of you have been here before. Those of you who have not, it's a warehouse. There's one bathroom, just want to warn you. So we tell people, come as you are, but remember to go before you go sometimes. So, but the one bathroom, usually it's no big deal, but it's right back over there. Other than that, I think, Janae, we're just going to have you come up and welcome our guests, and the night is yours, all right?
Welcome. Thank you for coming tonight, and I'm so excited for us to be hosting Moms for Liberty National team here. It's kind of surreal. It's been kind of a crazy day, but you know what? They already seem like family. They're not strangers. We're all like-minded, and so I would like to have Marge come up, who is my treasurer. Tina wanted to be here tonight, and she's here in spirit with us. She had not slept for 48 hours. Her young daughter had surgery, minor surgery. So I told her to stay home, rest, and be with her child. So she's probably watching live stream here, hopefully, or watch the recording. So just praying for her too. And we want to invite up Marie Rogerson and Pat Blackburn. They are our... Pat is the chapter chair coordinator, and Marie has like 4 names. It's executive director.
I know, of program development. It's complicated.
I couldn't remember what it was. I saw it and I'm like, what is it? And so basically, I think what we're going to do tonight, you guys were going to introduce like what a Madison Minute is, which if you are in our Moms for Liberty group for Douglas County, we haven't gone that far yet into a Madison Minute. And apparently Marie is the mom of that. And so she's just going to kind of, let us know what it is, and she's going to give us one. She's going to share us one. So that's kind of how we're going to start out. I think that Pat was going to give us like maybe a national update, or maybe just updates of what's kind of going on. And then we want to talk about what's happening here locally, have some question and answers from you guys, and a couple other things. So I will turn it over to Marie, and we're just going to, if it's okay, we're just going to sit down, and I might move this out of the way so we can look at each other and have a good time. All right? Don't be afraid to ask questions either, because that's what they're here for. And Summit, they have National Summit is at June 30th? June 30th to July? Okay, June 29th through July 2nd. And that's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I wanted to go last year, I wanted to go this year, but I just don't know how that's going to work out for my schedule yet. And so the good thing is National came to Oregon, came to Roseburg. So we're having our own summit, our own Oregon Summit. So I think this is awesome. So here's Marie.
Y'all, thanks for having us. It's always interesting as we go to different states. Every state in this country is different. The people, although we're all Americans, I think that's something sometimes we lose sight of. We're all a little bit unique. Every state has its own culture and the people are different, and y'all have been just down to earth and fabulous so far, so we're excited to be here with y'all. I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about Madison Minutes. When we started Moms for Liberty, one of the things that it says in our mission statement is we're trying to save America. We talk about unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights. But before we mention all that, we say we're here to save America. And the best way to save America is to get back to our founding principles, our founding documents. So out of curiosity, no shame, no judgment, raise your hand if you have read the Constitution in the last year. Okay, not bad, not bad. One of the things that we strive to do, the reason why we do Madison Minutes, is to tie us back to those documents on a more regular basis. And so when we start Moms for Liberty meetings, whether they're local chapter meetings or national meetings, we have a Madison Minute, which is just a quote from a founding father or a founding mother, because women contributed to the founding of this country too. And we talk about what that quote means. So I'm going to share one tonight that I like. And it's actually from Edmund Burke. It says, "The people never give up their liberties, but under some delusion." And I think it's useful to ponder sometimes. We've all given up some of our own liberties at times. We're not all awake all the time to the threats to our liberties, so it's useful to ponder, stop and go, what delusions have I previously operated under that caused me to give up some of my liberties? And then to stop and ponder the people we see around us who don't seem to embrace the principles of liberty in the same way we do. What delusions are they living under? And instead of judging them, how do we help them get out from under those delusions so that they can value the liberty the way that we do? So once again, Edmund Burke, "The people never give up their liberties, but under some delusion." And I'm going to turn it over to Pat. Pat has a speech she's going to talk to us about. I talked about our mission a little bit, but Pat's going to talk to you about our vision as Moms for Liberty and what we're striving to get to.
Okay, so Janae, that was a Madison Minute, and it really only takes like a minute. You read it, you get a quote.
Next time, June meeting.
Yeah, you read the quote and you say, well, this is why I picked it and why it's important. Okay. That's so easy, right? Okay, it's on the agenda now. Well, again, I have to say, like Marie, thank you so much for welcoming us. You guys just make us feel right at home. And we walked up and we saw all the decorations. You just did a wonderful job and you made it nice. I really do appreciate it. So thank you. I am the chapter coordinator for the national organization. So it's my job to help people when they want to start a new chapter, help them start their new chapter, give them their training, show them where all the resources are, and just kind of support them along the way. And it has been a fun job at times. It's been a difficult job at times, but it's been probably one of the most rewarding things I've done. But my history is that I was a teacher for 12 years in North Carolina, and my husband's job moved us out to Florida. I became the world's best volunteer at school because I still loved kids. And so I was a PTA president. I was the president of an education foundation, because I wasn't working anymore, so I had all that time. And then we had an issue at our school, and our parents were trying to get our school fixed because our school was in disrepair and had been let just to fall apart. We didn't have reliable Wi-Fi, we had leaky roofs, we had mold, our HVA system didn't work properly, and that's in Florida, so that's kind of an emergency. And we had ginormous rats in our cafeteria, and the parents were like, you guys have to fix this. And the school board looked at us like we had 3 heads, and we didn't know what we were talking about. Does that sound familiar? And so parents got together and we went and talked to our school board, and we went and met with our superintendent. We built relationships with the people in the district. We talked to the media, And eventually we were successful and were able to have our school fixed. And the parents were right. The cafeteria was so bad, the health department condemned it, and they were not allowed to use the cafeteria the rest of the year. 2 of the buildings were in such disrepair that they were not fixable, and they had to tear them down. And so in that process, one of those parents by the name of Tiffany Justice and I looked at each other and we said, we need a parent on the school board because these school board members do not listen to parents. And I said, well, I'm not from around here. That's what we say in North Carolina. I'm not from around here. But you are, and you should run. So Tiffany ran for school board. I ran her campaign, and she won. And she served for 4 years. And at the end of her 4 years, we were in the middle of COVID-19. And you all know that Florida went right on back to school in the fall. And everybody was telling Tiffany that by voting to open schools, she was killing people and the blood would be on her hands. School's open, everybody's okay. And then they said, well, we're just going to make masking optional unless they can't social distance. Well, guess what? You can't social distance at school. So everybody was in a mask, and children were really suffering. And so Tiffany worked really, really hard to try to have the parental rights of, respected, and said, look, parents know what's best for their children, and they know when their children are suffering and when they can't wear a mask. And she worked really hard. It was hard because she didn't have a majority of the board that would vote with her. And at the end of that 4 years, she had to decide, am I going to run for office again? Or, what am I going to do? I have all this knowledge. I know all this stuff. I know I've seen behind the education curtain, and there's a lot more going on than masking, and it's really bad. And at the same time, Tina Deskovich, who was our other co-founder, was up in Brevard County, and she stood firm that parents should be able to decide. Her own son was having a difficult time, and she had to pull him out of public school. He was having such a difficult time. And her stance for parental rights wasn't very popular at the time, and she actually lost her reelection. So she calls Tiffany up, and she's like, what are we going to do? And they started Moms for Liberty. And they thought, well, we got this. We can teach Florida. We have all the parents mad now, and they know what's going on, and we can teach them. We can empower them. We can educate them and show them how they can take back their seat at the table. And we can do this in Florida because they knew Florida. They knew Florida law. And it wasn't even a month. A sweet woman from Nassau County, New York, Barbara, called up, and she said, we need this here. And so Moms for Liberty went national. And it's all been history. And it's not been a very long history, but it's all been history since then. So that's kind of how Moms for Liberty was started. And Marie, like I ran Tiffany's campaign, Marie ran Tina's campaign. And so we've been with these ladies for a while. And we have a T-shirt that says, for such a time as this. And the first thing I did when I started volunteering with Moms for Liberty is do our interviews. Because our chapter chairs, when they file to start a chapter, we put them through an interview because we want to make sure they're not real crazy. But we asked them in the interview, there may be people who don't like what you're standing for. They may target you. They may target your family. Have you considered this? And so many of them told me, I just believe that God is calling me for such a time as this. So we had to have a T-shirt because we had so many people saying that. So that's the origin of Moms for Liberty. And I wanted to take some time to thank you guys today. I know Janae said there's some people here who have been really supportive. Right now, Moms for Liberty is approaching 300 chapters across the United States. But that's a drop in the bucket to what we need. We want a chapter in every county. So if you guys know people in other counties in Oregon, send them our way. We need watchdogs watching the schools in every county. So that's over 3,000 counties, y'all, in the United States of America. So we need your help. But if you know people in other counties, send them our way. And we're in 44 states. We want all 50. So if you know people in other states, send them our way. we want to thank the people here that do this work here, because we know Janae and the Moms for Liberty chapter are working, but we know there's other organizations that do that here. So Douglas County Citizens Coalition, all its members, they're all great supporters. Save Our Schools group from the local Douglas County, you guys, I think I met some of you guys. You guys are doing such a wonderful job. Also, Abby, is she here? She's not here yet. Okay, so Abby from the Citizens Coalition, and Pastor Jeff and Sharon Pascal, are they here? I know they're here. I've met them. Yep. Where are they? Wave. She's high. Oh, there she is. This is a beautiful location. Thank you guys so much. And Janae says all the time about how wonderful you guys are. So I just want to thank you. And you know, these people, Janae, they're stepping out of their comfort zone. They could be sitting on their comfy couch enjoying this beautiful, Oregon's beautiful. And you could just be sitting outside looking at the mountains, drinking your coffee. But instead, you're out here fighting for this country. So you guys are the knights in shining armor, and I just have to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. You should give yourselves all a hand. Yeah. So Marie told you about our mission. We're fighting for the survival of America, and we're doing that by empowering, unifying, and educating parents to stand up for their parental rights at all levels of government. That's our mission. But, you know, if you're fighting for something, you have to have a vision about what you want at the end of this fight. And so Moms for Liberty has a vision. And today that's what we're going to talk about. And our vision is to see Americans empowered and thriving in a culture of liberty. And let's think about what that looks like. Can we describe for someone what it is we want to see when we are thriving in a culture of liberty? Now, I bet you may have a hard time thinking about that, but I guarantee you if I started to ask you what it's not, you could tell me, well, I know what it's not. Because we know that in this day and age, and we look at education system, we can tell that there's not a culture of liberty happening there. So we know what it's not. I'm from the great state of North Carolina. We've been pretty much purple forever. We had Democrat rule for 100 years, and we've got a Democrat governor, and now we finally have a supermajority in our state legislature. So we're working on it. But in North Carolina, Charlotte-Mecklenburg schools, all the way back in 2017, they passed a gender support plan. And I don't know, I know you guys are dealing with some of this in the state of Oregon, but that gender support plan was a document that the teachers had to hide from parents a gender transition of a child, of their own child. Now what that meant, whatever they identify as, they kept that secret from the parent, and the child decided what name they wanted to be, what pronoun they wanted to be called, what bathroom they wanted to use, where they want to sleep if they go on overnight field trips, and what locker rooms they want to change clothes in. And the parents had no idea. And that was in 2017, y'all. That's before COVID. So that happened in Charlotte, and I know that's happening here, and we know that that is not what we envision thriving in a culture of liberty looks like. No. Okay, so we know it's not that. In another county in North Carolina, where I'm from, Chatham County, there was a sweet little girl, and her teacher, you know, they do these things at the beginning of the school year, the icebreaker activities. Tell me 3 things you love. And so she named her 3 things, and 2 of them, well, it was Bible and basketball and art. That was the 3 things she loved. And the teacher looked at her, and he laughed at her, and he told her that God wasn't real and that he was an atheist. And he did it in front of the whole class. In North Carolina, the Bible Belt. That is not living and thriving in a culture of liberty. And you know what? There was another situation. I'm talking about North Carolina because I'm from there. There was another situation in Wake County, North Carolina, in a class with children with special needs. They were reading a book called Diary of a Part-Time, absolutely true story of the Diary of a Part-Time Indian. Reading it out loud in class as a class assignment. And that book is one of those books that has some very explicit things in there that I would not want my daughter reading. So they're taking turns reading passages out loud, and the girl's reading, and she comes across this, and I won't even tell you what's in it. I'm just telling you it's nasty. And she looked at her teacher, and she said, "I'm not reading that." And he laughed, and the class laughed. And the little boy in the back said, "I'll read it." Stood up and read it out loud, and he was, "Thank you so much. Thank you for reading that." He was, applauded for reading it, and she was laughed at for not. That is not living and thriving in a culture of liberty. So we know what it's not. What is it? What does it look like? Have we sacrificed so much of our liberty that we've forgotten what it is we want? What's our vision? Well, for one, the balance of power in our schools is not going to rest with the government, but with the parents, where it belongs. There's this thing called in loco parentis. Have you guys heard that? In loco parentis, they say, oh, it's in loco parentis. So when they're at school, we're their parents. No. That does not mean that the school replaces the parent, because we do not co-parent with the government. Okay, and then here's something else. How about schools become places of academic excellence instead of indoctrination, scissors? Indoctrination. Wouldn't that be great? Yeah. In the state of Oregon, did you guys know that only 40% of your third graders are proficient in reading? And in your local districts, that percentage ranges depending on which district you're looking at, but it goes between, I think some as low as 17%, and some up there right at the 40 or a little over 40%. So it just depends what district you're in as to whether or not you're even near the state average. And your math scores are kind of in worse shape. Your state average for math proficiency is only 27%. That means only 27% of students are on grade level in math in the state of Oregon. Something tells me our schools are not focused on academics. And we know when our children are not properly educated, they are left in a situation where they cannot be free. That is not what liberty is. Okay, so let's think about what else we would like to see for our children to thrive and for us to thrive in a culture of liberty. How about our students honor our founding generation and live as proud Americans? They might understand the heritage of liberty that makes this country great and why ideologies like socialism and communism are really enslavement. Fundamental rights such as freedom of religion and speech will flourish with our vision. Differences in ethnicity, culture, and traditions will actually enrich our country because we will have a rock-solid foundation that unites us. And society will live up to the ideals that are enshrined in our Declaration of Independence because, y'all, in America, all people are created equal. And the truth is going to prevail as society will reject the falsehoods that are currently being embraced by our cancel culture. And our students will never be asked to deny basic fact. Americans will be empowered when our world-class education system prepares future generations to continue our track record of innovations that have improved the world for millions. Citizens are going to pursue the American dream. Do you guys remember the American dream? Finding meaning in work and continuing as this American experiment. And we will no longer suffer at the hands of a Marxist system of social justice, but we will be secure and safe as our crime rates fall under actual justice. Liberty has a moral foundation. Someone wise once said, America is great because she is good. And if America ever ceases to be good, she will cease to be great. Liberty comes with a responsibility. And whose responsibility is it to uphold the principles of liberty? It's your responsibility. It's my responsibility. And we have to teach that to our children. We must fan the flames of liberty by living them fully. And we must fight as joyful warriors. Now, our weapons are not fists and they're not guns, but our weapons are truth and relationship building. And so I just have to thank you, and I have to thank all of you for joining us on the battlefield. Because together, we can accomplish this vision for America's future. Thank you.
Do you mind if I take a couple minutes, add to that? Thanks, Pat. I don't think if you're a Christian, hopefully you come to church and you get filled with the Spirit, hopefully at least once a week. But I think too often we don't bask in the spirit of the founding of this country. We don't spend, if you're Christian, you spend time in the Bible, right? But most Americans don't spend time in our founding documents, and they've lost touch with what the spirit of liberty is. So being able to talk about what it really truly looks like when you live in a culture that's thriving in liberty, I don't think they know. So I think it's a valuable topic. And I'd just like to add to it and hopefully hear from y'all for a second, because that's something we want, right? But what are we doing to get it right now? So we have a lot of ways we fight in Moms for Liberty, but I want to know if y'all are willing to chat, what you guys are fighting for. Each of us has our own things that we're passionate about and our own things that caused us maybe to get involved, maybe to come out tonight. So I'd love to hear from a couple of you. What are you fighting for? What's your why? Why are you here tonight? Why do you care so much?
Abby's here. Abby's right in the back there.
Abby's trying to hide.
Come up, yeah.
She looks both ways, not me. Abby, tell us why you're involved in this cause.
Give her the mic, because it's on live stream.
Oh, you don't want to give me a mic. I mean, it's just like a four-word answer, right?
No, you can tell us your story.
Oh, well,
Give us something.
I mean, I'm involved in our school district, heavily involved in that, because there's a lot of stuff going on. We haven't even gotten to starting to fight a woke agenda yet, because we're just trying to fight the local corruption going on with that, and learning about our county and state government and how it works and what's wrong with it and how we go about changing it. And so basically, I can't give you one thing. It's basically all of them, all the causes, from school board to nation.
That's great. To me, if I had to put it into a simple one-word answer, it sounds to me like you're fighting ignorance. People don't know how their government works anymore. We're unattached from how local government is supposed to work, from how our school boards are supposed to work. And so you're right, you're fighting the corruption. There's lots of layers you got to get to, but you can't fight them until you know what they are, until you know how the system works. 100%. What's something else y'all are fighting for? What inspires you? We have ways that we're fighting, but Charlie, tell me what you're fighting for.
So it could be that summing up with I'm fighting for my kids' salvation. They're taking God out of the school and labeling them. The whole gender identity is so counterdictive to what we're trying to teach our children at home. And so you got to know what they're teaching so you can fight back against it. So it's a religious reason, fighting for God, and may God fight for us.
I love it, and I love that it's not just religious, it's personal. It's your kids and your grandkids. It's the future of your country.
Yeah, I'd say we're pretty much down to good and evil. And when you indoctrinate enough children in this, they want to perpetuate it. So I literally think we're in a fight for the souls of our youth. For every lost one that's been drug off and deluded and lives under a delusion. When you said that we can't have liberty without a delusion, I literally think we see the Thessalonians and the references of delusion. Our kids are being deluded.
I'd agree. I think culture has done a very good job of erasing the idea that there is even truth. It's all subjective, right? You can be anything. Nothing really matters. True, it's not the truth. It's my truth. It's her truth. It's his truth, or they them's truth, depending on what room you're in. But truth and the soul of our country, definitely something we're fighting for. Anybody else want to share what their specific?
David Jakes. I'm supposed to report the news, not make the news, but I just couldn't resist to say that, when we raised our 5 kids all here in Douglas County, people used to tell us, we didn't allow them to date. They were in Christian school most of the time. Towards the end, a couple of them went to government high school. But they would say, David, you got to choose your battle. And I would say, I do, all of them. They're all my battle. That's what drives me. And today, whether it's critical race theory, Black Lives Matter, comprehensive sex education, this horrible satanic transgender movement. We ran a story a few weeks ago. Some of you take the Beacon, and on the front page, we talked about OHSU doing these transgender surgeries. And it is so gross, I had to leave a lot of the stuff out that was right on Oregon Health Authority's website. And on OHSU's website. So anyway, they're all motivating me every single minute, every day.
Yeah. So there's a lot to do, that's for sure. Anyone else want to add anything?
I think one of the biggest battles that we have is our voting is completely out of control. It's all rigged. And people are giving up in frustration and saying, well, why should I vote? It doesn't count. And I think until we get that fixed, I don't know how we're going to fix government.
Yeah, 100%. System's broken. Lots of parts of our system are broken. Somebody else over here have
Election integrity. How do we ever get Oregon back when we can't win an election?
Yeah.
An SOS.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, I think election integrity is a very popular topic right now. I have a lot of friends who are very passionate about it, do a lot of work in that arena. Actually, one of my friends is the guy that's in charge of it at the RNC. But to me, one of the things that often gets left out of that discussion is you can fix the systems, you can fix the mechanisms, but until the citizenry is informed and engaged, you're never going to have fair and honest elections. So there's just a massive part of that we generally tend to leave out, but it's a huge topic.
I think maybe SOS-OR, which is the Save Our Schools program, kind of has identified where we can truly make a difference in getting the right people in positions of authority. And one of the founders of SOS, Dick Hurd, came up with a saying that we just grabbed onto. Said, we're tired of arguing in front of the authorities. We're going to be the authorities. And the one key thing I think that we did differently than what I've heard around the country is we took advantage of this huge faith community that's still out there. We had 2 prongs of attack, secular, just identifying who is totally off the wall, and then we had the faith community getting behind us, and that made a huge difference. And we're going to expand that to other counties in Oregon.
I love that. I think the idea that you shared of we're going to be the authority obviously completely works when we're talking about, electing school board members or county commissioners or the president. But we also have to be the authority on the things we want them to do. You can't elect a good school board member if you don't know how good schools are supposed to be or what is right or wrong. Or how our country is supposed to work. So being the authority can work even if you don't think you're ever going to run for office. You should be the authority. You should be the authority on what you want your community to look like, for sure, how you want your children to be raised. Anyone else want to share? I do.
Yeah, we have a bill 2002B, and it's taking the parents' rights away. That's really, really serious. So if this state falls, the rest of them will. So we have to have our parents be strong, get them out of schools.
So you you gave me a good transition from a next topic, because I think you're right. And when you say and I've heard lots of people in different states say the same thing. If this state falls, everyone else goes with us. And while lots of different states say it, I think they can, because it's true. We are a republic, and there is a magic in America that liberty brings. And if we lose that, in one place, it tumbles, just like dominoes. So my second question, kind of coming off of why y'all are fighting, is how? How are we going about that? And I don't necessarily mean that in a strategic way, because obviously if we're tackling election integrity, it's a little different than getting somebody elected for school board or those kinds of things. What I mean is the method, the methodology, the spirit in which we are engaging in this fight. How are we going to do that without further dividing and destroying America?
All of these woke businesses and corporations. I think about Anheuser-Busch and the stuff that they pulled, and people boycotted them, and they're almost out of business. And Target has on their website, Satan loves you. I mean, we've got to hurt them in the purse strings before we can get their attention.
$9 billion.
Yeah, I know. Go woke, get broke. Yeah. In Moms for Liberty, we have a saying. We call ourselves joyful warriors. And I think that the way you put that is important. Obviously, we can absolutely hurt the goals these people have. But we, as joyful warriors, are not out to hurt people, right? And sometimes, specifically in the things that Moms for Liberty fights for, it gets real gray. When we're talking about, for example, the transgender movement, is there a movement out there that's trying to corrupt our children? Absolutely. But does that mean that the mom who is struggling with her teenage daughter, who is now trying to identify as a boy in your neighborhood school, is part of that? Not necessarily. They're probably a family who is struggling deeply. And if we are not careful in the way that we message and talk about things, then we do more damage than we do harm, than we do benefit anything. And so the method of, we want to hurt their end goal, but we don't want to hurt our fellow Americans. We will not win this war ultimately just by being right. We have to reunify this country under things that we should all be unified under. And so embodying that joyful warrior attitude of, just because we disagree doesn't mean you're my enemy, number one, because that's what people want us to believe right now is, that whether you're Republican or Democrat, the other side is your enemy. If you stand for this, anybody who stands against you is your enemy. No, we are all children of God, and we are all Americans. And the minute we lose sight of that, it doesn't matter how right or wrong we are on principle, we are going to lose our country. And that is really the heart of what we try and do as Joyful Warriors in Moms for Liberty. We don't want to be the angry mob with the pitchforks yelling at everybody and making them feel bad. We want to stand for truth, but we're going to love people through that truth. Okay, and I think that's something we're all learning as we go. We get better as we go through things. We learn, that message didn't land the way I meant it to, things like that. But striving to fight these fights in a way that's going to cause us to have a unified country again is really, really important. So that's the long and the short of my message. So if y'all had something you want to talk about too, then we'd love to hear from you.
On that note, I want to say that I've watched a lot of things where my husband and I were watching, it was a school board member. Who sent that? Linda? Did you send that to me last night? So she sends, it was last night because we watched it before I went to, maybe it was this morning. I don't know. Everything's a blur. Since these guys were coming, I've been so excited running everywhere. And my goat got in the house and ate some homework. And anyway, watching that, who was it? Robert Knowles' show from Daily Wire. It was good. Did you guys watch that? Michael Knowles. That was a really good example of how we should be at a school board meeting. Abby, I think she left already. Abby has always tried to, there she is back there. She's always tried to show us to be respectful. Whatever the subject is, Go in with respect. Don't be going in there, calling and snorting and, freaking out and stuff like that, which, sometimes we want to because it's something that's hitting a tender string in us, if you've been offended by something. So it's very hard. But you know what? We're not going to get anywhere by our attitude being like that, especially if the other side is you're trying to get your point across, and you know that, you're going to have to figure out a way for them to open their ears and listen. So we need to be respectful. But anyway, that example was that father who went dressed in a suit, and his what he was saying was it was a part of a book that they had to read, an assignment for 15-year-olds, like probably a sophomore class or something like that. And it was not good. It was sexually explicit material in it. He read it to the board, but it bleeped out certain words. And he's like, is that, he's talked in a monotone voice. He didn't raise his voice. He just said, is that something that your 15-year-old daughter, you'd want her to read? And he talked just like that. So it wasn't getting their hackles up. He wasn't attacking them in his tone or condemnation that it could be sounding. So those are the ways that we need to get across. And also, if you make friends with like Clay Tillman back here, and anybody that's going to start their chapters, someone who's been in mental health, he has been awesome. And him and I are actually working on something right now. We haven't gotten together recently, but how we're going to go about talking to our school boards about the transgender issues is we're bringing facts to them. We're not going to, we're not throwing it in their face and saying, hey, you didn't know about, we're going to bring facts. And we're going to talk in a, diplomatic way to our board so that they understand when this becomes a requirement. Right now, it's only recommended in Oregon, these guidelines, the gender expansive guidelines. But he's been teaching me how we need to go to certain websites like the American College of Pediatrics, I believe, not the American Medical Association of Pediatrics. They have great information, and they have the knowledge talking to you about how the brain develops in kids. So those are some things that we can print off. You guys can go to your boards. I'll go with you, whatever it takes. I'm one person, and we have 17 counties here in Oregon or in Douglas County, but things like that. And then the CDC, of all things, they have their own. It's a single page that talks about the teenage brain and gives different examples of how it works. And it basically goes against what the transgenderism is talking about. So, and I have those things back there on the table that you guys can look at and you can pick up. I think there's extra copies. There's also copies of the Oregon law that we've talked about before about pornographic explicit books being in our libraries, in our school. Oregon is one of 43 states that has that exception for it to be okay to be in our libraries. But if you walked out on the street and you handed the child the same book that's in the library, you're going to be arrested for handing pornographic material to a minor. So those are the things that we need to, that's what that parent also did on the Michael Knowles show. He went and he looked at the U.S. federal law against pornographic content, and he let the board know, hey, this is what federal law says about this, and that, you can be criminalized for doing what you're doing, allowing this pornographic content, whether you knew it or not.
Yeah, I said that.
Here, you probably watched it a couple more times.
No, I only watched it once, but he said you might want to be talking to your lawyers.
To your school lawyers. I didn't even know schools had lawyers until a couple years ago. So. Yeah, Chris Ann Hall, and that's who's going to be speaking at Summit, right?
Yeah, and we've been doing a monthly series with her. If you are not yet a member of Moms for Liberty, you should go and sign up. You should sign up with your chapter. But you can also sign up on our website. And we've been doing a series with Chris Ann about the Constitution. And every month she talks about something specific. We have one coming up, I think it's the 7th, I want to say. And they're free. You just hop on the website. We stream it live. You can watch it. She takes questions at the end. So it's fun to think up a real tough constitutional question for Chris Ann, see if you can stump her. I've not seen it happen yet. But you can go back and watch all the previous recordings of them, and she's going to be at Summit. She's going to I forget what she's going to be talking about. But her husband's going to be teaching a class too about, it's called Victims No More, and he's going to talk about the heritage we have of African Americans in this country that also fought for freedom and started our country and fought in the Revolutionary War and things like that. So it's going to be fabulous. So.
I saw a short video with her where she said, if you have drag queens reading story hour in your library or stuff like that in your school, then you can demand to have a Paul hour where you talk
Yeah.
about the Apostle Paul or whatever. And if they won't let you, you sue them and you win.
Yeah, so for those on the live stream who may not have heard that, she said there was a clip that Chris Ann was talking about. If your school allows things like drag queen story time, that means it's equal opportunity, right? So you got to be able to, have a Bible club or a Paul story time at your school. And if they don't allow that, then you got a good court case for yourself, and you can work that out.
I just want to take a moment to thank Charlie. Charlie, stand up. He's wearing an awesome shirt, by the way. Charlie, come up here just for a minute. You don't have to talk, but, we want to get a picture of Kaylee's professional photographer there, taking a picture, because, yeah. So Pat prepared Charlie to be on Newsmax when...
You did a great job.
So it was like a week of trouble, and the Lord was good to see me through it, because it was supposed to be earlier in the week, and they delayed it, and I needed that extra time to practice.
Oh, you were fabulous. You were
But I wasn't fabulous earlier in the week. But it worked out good, and I thank you for your time and effort and your help and all that.
I enjoyed
I
it.
just wish I would have, they gave me opportunity to give a plug for Moms for Liberty, and I didn't think of it.
That's okay.
But,
They know us there.
Anyway, and thanks for Janae as well for getting me involved. And it's just a springboard. I mean, now I'm involved in all kinds of groups. And it all started from that, from taking an interest and going from there. So that's what it takes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Charlie started out, just like a lot of us, our coalition group. And this is how Moms for Liberty birthed anyways, from Todd Vaughn being here, who was the vice chair at the time, or was a vice chair. But, and then Charlie came to a Moms for Liberty meeting, and then Shazam, he's a member. And then, I'm not kidding you, it's like a couple of weeks, all of a sudden, he's, the interview you guys had called about Newsmax wants to interview like a chair. And so she was actually prepping me, then Newsmax dropped me because they knew Charlie was going to be way better. So then I asked Newsmax if they were going to reschedule the interview with me, and he's like, well, are you directly affected by the gender expansive guidelines? And I said, well, I'm not. I said, but I know somebody who is, who, by the way, spoke out at a school board meeting at Roseburg, and it was Charlie. So Charlie went to his first board meeting. I went there with him, and he prepared a little bit of a speech after he looked through the guidelines to bring forth to the school board and tell them what he thought of it. And Roseburg School District, they record video and audio. Some school districts only do audio. So anyway, I called and said that first I had recorded him secretly on my phone, and he didn't want me to, but I did. But anyway, it worked out because Roseburg had a much better recording of him talking. And so they wanted to talk to him, and Pat got him all prepped, and he goes, Janae, what have you done to me? He's like, I joined Moms for Liberty. No, Mom's going to be on TV. Ah! He's all stressed out. He's like, because he's not a public speaker. He's not an outgoing type of person. And so it was very stressful for him, I think, to even speak at the board meeting. But, he's a great example of anyone who's scared or not sure of what are you going to sound, because we always grade ourselves, what are we going to look like? What are we going to sound like? And I'm sure that he let part of that, but he was awesome. And the board came up and thanked him after it was over. I mean, they said, we need to get more people to come to our meetings because there really was only like 4 of us there. And that's for the biggest school district in our county that has 5,000 kids. Like, really? 4 people? That's after all those awards, you know, how they give out the awards and everybody leaves, because you're like looking around going, man, there's a lot of people here for our school board meeting, and then they give the awards and then they leave, and you're like, oh, there's 3 of us, big deal. Wow. So it's kind of, anyway. But I just want to say thank you, because Charlie did an excellent job, and now he's much braver and not as mad at me. But I wanted to give a shout out to, I see board members here. So Steve, come up here. Steve Hammerson. Steve ran for position 5. Was it 5? 5, yeah. Position 5, and you were up against 4 or 5 other people?
5 people for 5, and the incumbent was
it Brandon?
Was Charles Lee.
Oh, Charles Lee. Okay, so he was running against, there was 5 people in his position, and Charles Lee is an attorney, I believe, or former attorney here in Roseburg, and I know him a different way, but anyway. And you know what? We didn't get our website put together, which is what my downfall of doing the surveys for the candidates, so I printed off like a template because I couldn't think of anything else to do. I was like, man, we're getting down to the crunch time, and I wanted to endorse some people, but then you've got to get your chapter back together and then vote on it when you get those surveys. So we only actually got 2 surveys back, which was Mary Schreiner and Steve's, and Mary's not here tonight, but anyway, we got back together at Abby's Pizza. I bought everybody pizza that showed up so we could vote, and yeah, bribery. Come on. I know, but but some people are suckers for spuds and pizza, and I got my husband there and grabbed him, something to eat. But he won, and it was awesome, right? What did you win?
Andrea Minor over there. Yep. Position 6.
Yep. Andrea, come on up here.
I'm curious,
in
such a contested race with an incumbent, what would you say was the most impactful thing that you did in your race to help you actually be victorious?
I don't know if I can pin it on one particular thing. I think there were several things we did. Bob and Tracy Sullivan with SOS, and me and Andrea and Michael Leone, and a bunch of other parents and grandparents in the area. We just kind of all banded together about 3 months ago. And, we started meeting with Dick and Dallas Hurd. They kind of gave us some tips on how to campaign. I also went to a campaign training in Albany when we had our state central committee meeting. But getting the yard signs out early, that was good. We got support from Oregon Freedom Alliance, I think. Family Council, they sent out mailers saying all the businesses that support us locally, or not the businesses, all the organizations that support us locally. So that, and then opportunities for interviews with newspapers, I think News Review. Yeah, and then in News Review, I just kind of, in the speeches that I gave, I just kind of said, just focus on the basic principles: faith in God, faith in the sustainability of the Constitution, genuine care and concern for our kids, and the fact that my kids are going to be in the Roseburg school system for the next, 10 to 14 years. 4-year-old, 8-year-old, and 14-year-old. So yeah, I'll let Andrea talk because she'll start going, woo!
Well, yes. So
How many ran in your group? I forget.
we had, I had 3. There were 3 of us total. Yeah. And
Because who did you run against that was the incumbent?
Rebecca Larson. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm curious, what's the most shocking thing to you now that you're on the board that you didn't expect?
I think we're about to find out.
I think we're going to find out.
We don't start till July. So.
Yeah, I think really a lot of the success, number one, is God and prayer. Prayer. And before I got involved with SOS, Save Our Schools, it had been in the back of my mind that I needed to run for the board. And Bill Federer, if you're familiar with him, had come and spoke and was just, clay nose. It was really, really awesome. and I knew that it was time. And one of the giftings that God has given me is intercession. So when I served on a previous board, we had some really hard topics come up that were probably going to be knocked down, knockout, drag out, going on, a lot of discussion. And there were a couple of us, and we prayed. And there were a couple of times that those things were resolved in less than 5 minutes with a board unanimous decisions. Praise God, exactly. So I feel that this is the number one thing I will do is pray. And then listen to him and listen to the parents. And, as far as I know, Roseburg really has got a great superintendent, and they really are doing a pretty good job. But what I see is what's coming down from Salem, and it's not going to be pretty. And so I ran without knowing anything about SOS or anything. I just knew I was going to do this. And then all of a sudden, SOS came in, and I was like, who are these people? And it was amazing. And so I really believe a lot of what happened was SOS, and the way they worked with the pastors. And I do believe the churches, that is where it's at. We need to wake up. I'm going to start doing my thing.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to wake up and be vocal, but like you said, really nice. I mean, we don't have to scream, we don't have to shout, but we have to be present. And we have to say en masse, no, we don't want that. These are our babies, these are our tax dollars, and this is not what we want. So,
I do want to thank Jeff Pascal and his wife as well, because they allowed us to speak to his congregation. And, he's been a real guiding light for us. We moved down to Roseburg 2 years ago, escaped to Portland. I just kind of looked at my wife and I'm like, we're not raising the boys here. This is nuts. And so we came down to Roseburg, and Jeff's been awesome. I mean, we've known him for a little over a year now. And, Abby's been awesome with the coalition. And like you guys were touching on earlier, we kind of just come up to a point where there's all these people that have been in the establishment for a while, and they're like, this is the way things go. And we're like, no, this is not the way things go. So it's been tough, because we're getting a lot of friction from people that align with us. And it's really difficult to deal with that. But at the same time, we're fighting for very, very serious things. So, and we're most of us that are the new people trying to take over authority, we want the people to talk. People don't want to say anything because they're just like, this is the way it goes in Oregon. And we're trying to show them a better way and infuse ourselves into every board, whether it's political or nonpartisan, whatever. We're just trying to infuse the American dream back into, our society. So it's tough, It's like my wife and I work like 8-hour days, and then we work 10-hour days once we're done with work. So, but yeah, I mean, everybody here, I have to apologize to Janae because I was gonna be with Moms for Liberty, and then now I'm getting elected to multiple boards and stuff, and I was just like, I'm so sorry. But I love you guys, yeah.
we actually, July, yeah, the first Wednesday in July, that we actually take the oath, and the very first words out of the oath that we take is that we will uphold the Constitution of the United States. That's. Yeah, and what I would say about the SOS, so they gave a list of candidates out for the state, for the county, and there were 18 names. So I want to show you how powerful this is. Of those 18, only 4 did not get elected. Isn't that amazing? And while the votes are not yet final, we do have one race in Winston where there's only 31 votes difference. So we may actually pick up another seat. So that's what we did. And in Roseburg, all three of us that ran, and there are already 2 other Christians on this 7 board, I mean, we're doing pretty good for Roseburg, right? Just think what's going to happen in 2 years when we have another election, we get better at this, we get more great Christian conservative people on these boards. This county is going to go, which gives us more power if when it comes to curriculum fights, right? When Salem says you get this curriculum, or this really bad curriculum, take your pick. We can say, these are all garbage, we have our own. And it will give us more unity if we can approach that as a county.
Yep. And getting it as an county is right. We've got to get the numbers to be able to say that this is going to be our curriculum. And that's why one of the things I push for when people go to school boards, or you just ask the school board, hey, do you guys have a curriculum committee? Because they should be incorporating parents on that curriculum committee. So Roseburg High School, my brother that's here with all of his kids, I asked them, do you have parents on it? I went to their sex ed, and so did he. I told my brother, go there. We need to look at the curriculum, that there's 2 of them. And I held them down for an hour and a half, just drilling them with questions after they were supposed to close an hour before that. But I didn't care because, I was like, I need to know these answers. And then I said, do you have parents on your curriculum committee? Because they have one. No. And I said, why not? And they're like, because ultimately it is the school board's decision, which it is, to choose the curriculum. But we still need to hear from parents. How fair is that? I mean, there could be people that are on the school board that are parents, but we need parents that are outside of the school board to be on those curriculum committees. So that's been one of my things, is to push all these smaller rural schools to ask for a curriculum committee that includes parents on it. So that's one way we can kind of step in and have our own eyes on it and put our own 2 cents in at that moment in time. You guys can be on budget committees. I just was on a budget committee for Glide. Well, you learn a lot of stuff about your school and the spending if you are on it. You only go like 3 meetings a year at the end of the year, but you know what? You're going to learn a lot about where your money goes, where our money goes. So anyway, I just want to thank these 2 because I apologize because the surveys that went out, I only got Steve, Mary, and I think one other person. And so we were able to endorse Steve. But, Andrea and everybody that was on that SOS list were all recommendations by our chapter. So
it was our first rodeo.
Yeah, it was our first rodeo, right? And so I want...
Didn't do too bad for your first rodeo, so come on.
Thank the Sullivans for all their hard work on SOS, and Dick and Dallas Hurd, because that's one of the groups that we work with. Also Adrian Courier back here with Children's Health Defense. He's got a table set up of stuff in the back. And then we were going to have Angel Cocker from Education Freedom of Oregon was going to come and set up a table for the petition for school choice in Oregon, because we want to get that on the ballot for 2024, because we have till July of 2024 to get like 250,000. So those are some of the groups that we work with. Of course, Coalition, because the Coalition is how we've all started out, with knowing our freedoms are going away and how do we fight. So I just want to thank everybody here. There's stuff on the back. There's cards that you guys can fill out. If you're not a member already, you can fill one out or take one for a friend and turn it in to me, mail it in to me, or whatever. And does anybody else have any more questions for our national team? I mean, how often do they get to come to Oregon? Come on, man. Yes.
Totally willing to take questions, but you, at the end, you made me think of something I don't think we've talked about yet. We talked about our mission and we talked about our vision, but we have 3 core values. And the fact that y'all are working together with all these organizations proves one of those core values so strongly that I just wanted to point it out. Our core values are: we tell the truth, we empower others, and we build relationships. And the fact that we are one of those, we don't view ourselves as competing with other organizations. It's a big umbrella. There's room for everybody. And so to build these types of coalitions in your community is unfortunately a little more unique than it should be. So y'all, this is amazing that you guys are working together and you have so many freedom and liberty-minded groups that you're able to work with, that y'all are all willing to work with one another is amazing. So y'all, seriously, your community just kind of blows me away. So thank you for what you guys are doing. We tell the truth, we empower others, and we build relationships.
And then you were just asking people to join your chapter. And one of the blessings of Moms for Liberty, when I read the Bible and I learn about Jesus, he was not loved in Nazareth, where he was from. And Tiffany has some people who really love her in Indian River County, but in Indian River County, she wasn't the most popular person because of the stand she took. But the beauty of Moms for Liberty is our people are not fighting alone. And so you guys can join a whole nation of citizens, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, who are in this fight with you. And the resources that we have resources for parents, for everybody, that you don't even have to be a member. You just go to the website, you click on resources, you'll see resources for parents. There's tons of stuff there. Go look at it, take advantage of it. But then if you join as a member, there are resources for members. And somebody mentioned Chris Ann Hall. Chris Ann Hall does a wonderful series for us. They're there, it's all there. We do a lot of things that are for our members. And so sign up with your local chapter, and then take advantage of what the national organization offers. And then just, it's just great to just not be alone and to have an army, a joyful warrior army fighting with you.
All right, so I already told you some things that we have in the back. There are stickers over there. You guys got to take some stickers. Hand them out to everybody, because I think it says we're just getting started. Is that what it says on it? And wear those proudly. Another thing that we have done is gone to the Capitol. So this right here is when I went to HB 2002, when the House was talking up the Capitol. Those are some things that you guys can, that's why I put it out there. If I'm going to be able to go to the Capitol, jump in the car with somebody, we can go up and we can help support our senators, our House representatives, just by being there. Like, when Virgil Osborne was down on the floor, do you guys know how bad it was? I was sitting by myself over in the section where it was all there. The fire marshal said we couldn't sit there, but I was the only person sitting there, and the other 37 of our group was over. So bad I wanted to say, "Yo, Virgil!" because I thought it would be really cool too, the echo back off the top. But I was on the tip of my tongue. I'm like, am I going to get in trouble? But then I kept hearing people talk about etiquette there. There's these other people that I'd heard about all the etiquette, and in fact, one lady earlier when we were sitting there, her foot was barely touching the marble. There's like this little lip right there where it's got the nice brass handles, and then it's like wood on top and marble. This security guy who's been there for years, he came over and her foot was she was like this, just barely touching. He goes, "Ma'am, your foot can't be touching the marble. It's got to touch the wood." I was like, what? Whoa, it's a good thing I didn't yell Virgil down there, because I'm trying to kick down out of the Capitol. Anyway, so I'm just letting you guys know, we can all get together. We can go and we can, support those people that are going against these bills, support our senators. We need to send out emails to them too, which I'm sure you guys always are pushing that, to talk to our legislators and tell them that we're behind them for the walkout. So, Adrian, do you want to give any kind of spiel at all on what you got going on for Children's Health Defense, and how I know you wanted to go with me up there, and because they're one of the groups right here. It's Oregonians for Medical Freedom, Children's Health Defense. What is it? It was Moms for Liberty, and it was People's Rights. So Anyway, but anyway, he probably doesn't, but he's got a lot of good stuff in the back. And when we were talking about masking and the vaccine, those are things that we want to arm our parents with too. And in fact, this summer, we're going to have at the Douglas County Fair, Moms for Liberty chapter here is going to have their own booth. Coalition had their booth last year. They let me have stuff in there. And we had it was kind of funny. It was booth number 45, like Trump 45. Everybody was like, we're in 45 for 45. And it was a corner booth. And I had the Moms for Liberty thing up there, and everybody that walked right in those doors, it's the only air-conditioned building, by the way. So everybody comes in when they're hot, and they're like, Moms for Liberty, oh, wow. And they weren't throwing darts at it or, rotten tomatoes, so that was good. But we're going to have our own booth this year, hopefully right next to DCCC. And so that's going to be exciting. And I also want to do like a school choice event or a parents event so that we can just educate, like she's talking about, educate parents of what in the world's going on. We need to get those public school parents educated. The homeschool parents know, the private school parents know, just like some of the conversations we were having, like when David was back there. But we've got to somehow reach these parents and let them know what is coming down from Salem, what's going to be affecting your kids and your grandkids. So, or how about your kids that are teachers? My daughter's a first grade teacher. My other daughter's an IA. Those are things that they're going to have to be dealing with or be forced to teach. What's going to happen? They're going to lose their job. They're going to walk away. What is going to happen here in Oregon? So we've got a lot of battles ahead of us. And so you guys heard the theme. We need to pray. And we do need to uphold the Lord and ask him for his favor and his protection on our kids too and our parents. So you got anything? And we want to pray for Tina. Tina is our secretary. And she's, we're just upholding her and her daughter who had surgery. And so just keep her lifted up in prayer. And also if anybody wants to run for vice chair in the June thing, please come forward. We'll take a vice chair. Anyway, so I want to thank Pat and Marie. They traveled, they went to you left Florida, you left Colorado, you guys met in Denver, right? North Carolina, Florida, they flew to Denver. And then, did you guys talk to quite a few chapters?
Met with our Colorado and Wyoming.
Okay, cool. So they met with the Colorado and Wyoming chapters. That's pretty cool. And then jumped on a plane, came to Portland, so I'm sure they're very tired. But does anybody else have anything they want to ask National or while they're here? Or anything else? Shout outs? Okay. Yes, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, literally, thank y'all. We could have, Tina and Tiffany could have come up with this idea, and it could have gone nowhere, right? Lots of good ideas go nowhere, but it's engaged people on the ground. It's you guys. It's very kind of you to say thank you, and I will say you're welcome because my mama taught me to do that. But it's y'all that deserve the thanks. We would be nothing without you guys. And what you're doing is, we have this hashtag we're using right now, I am Moms for Liberty, or who is Moms for Liberty. That you guys are Moms for Liberty. Whether you're wearing a shirt, whether you're at a school board meeting or not, when you're in the grocery store and you're kind to your neighbor, or you're talking to the people about, hey, my friend's running for school board, make sure you get out and vote. You are Moms for Liberty. And you're standing for something that made our country what it is and what will make it something we want to pass on to our kids and our grandkids. I have a 15 and a 13 and a 4-year-old. That's quite the spread. I don't recommend it. But I would like them to all be able to grow up and enjoy what I know to be possible in this country. For them to live under the liberty that you need to actually be able to thrive. And that I can't do that on my own. I spend every waking hour of every day fighting for it, and it will not matter. It takes a community. It takes an entire nation. And y'all, just seriously, thank you so much.
Charter schools are a little different than just a
Yep.
public school. Have you had experience, you know?
Yeah. So we have, interestingly enough, in Moms for Liberty, we have the full spectrum. We have homeschoolers, we have people with no children, we have people with kids in public school, we have people with kids in charter school. Charter schools are different from state to state. In Florida, we have public charter schools. Some states, they're not public schools. But we have parents that are trying to have authority and be a check and balance on every form of school. And so it depends on the type of charter, how they're set up where you're from. Yeah, okay, awesome. So most charter schools have their own governing board. And since it's a smaller entity, it sometimes is easier to get into and to have some oversight on, sometimes because it is small, and sometimes because it's been established for a while, they can be harder to get into because they're like real cliquey sometimes. But figuring out how the system there works is step number one, because it is going to be slightly different than a traditional public school. So figuring that out and then going from there. Do you want to add anything?
It's my first job. My first job out of college, I taught at a charter school in North Carolina. And we had a director and a principal and a board. And but the power really was on the parents, because they chose to come to our school. And because that was my first job out of college, my first job teaching, I felt like I owed those parents. And they were also my clients, because they were choosing to bring their children to me. And so in that situation, the parents had a lot of power and say-so, because our charter school wasn't going to operate if we didn't have enough students to make it run. And so I think that was really beneficial for me as a teacher. When I went into public school after that, the other teachers didn't like me because they said I spoon-fed my parents. But I will say that you do need to be concerned about your charter schools, because we are finding that some of the charter schools, parents are pulling their children because maybe the academics are better, they're performing a little bit better academically, but then there's still some things coming in the parents need to be concerned about. So you have to be involved as a parent or community member, even in charter schools, and especially private school. I pulled my child when he was in 5th grade. His teacher, I went for my parent-teacher conference, and I'm like, okay, how's he doing? She's like, oh, he's fine. And I'm like, okay, I'm a teacher. I want to see his data. And he wasn't fine. And she was like, yeah, but he's fine. And I was like, no, he's not. And I realized that he was not going to learn anything in that system, because the system wasn't serving him. So I pulled him and put him in a private school. That private school was great for a little bit, but it's accredited. The accreditation for the private schools, they are required to do some things that I don't agree with. And so he's graduating this year. But I do tell you, if you've got your child in a private school, find out how the schools are accredited and what they have to do to get their accreditation, because that's very important before you put your child there, because that is very important.
And I found out homeschooling my last child for the last 6 years that accreditation, at least in Oregon, it's okay to not, be accredited for going to college and things, because that's how we're brainwashed. Part of it is the accreditation until you actually talk to some people. So I wasn't worried. I got knowledge. So we need to look into things. Just because someone says, oh my goodness, but your child is not going to an accredited school, how are they going to, make it to university or college? But who said they were going to go there anyway? They could be a trade school or something, right? And she's not in college yet, and I don't know if she's going to, but you know what? She's got a job right now. She's a citizen of, this great U.S., and we've trained her up. She comes to coalition meetings, and, isn't that, it was better to have her at home and teach her what we wanted to teach her. But we were able to do it. I know I get that's the fight for a lot of people in public school, and that's why we're there too. There's a lot of people that say they're not cut out to be a teacher, but that's not true too. God gave us all, we can teach. We can teach in different ways. So I just want to thank you guys for coming tonight. Appreciate seeing all your faces. And we will have a chapter meeting in June if you guys want to join our chapter or have any questions. We've got join cards over there and over there, or you can call me. You guys know where to find me in the coalition. So, all right.